Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Daniel Hood Roofing. Daniel and his inspectors won't tell you there's a problem with your roof if they don't find a problem with your roof. And if they do find a problem with the roof, they're going to show you the problem on video. And they have equipment to show you exactly how much water is getting past your shingles. Call today for a free roof inspection. Don't cost nothing, as they say, and it could save you a lot. DanielHoodRoofing.com. All right, what if the Big Ten went NFL? And by that, look at this crazy thing. They are already a national league, okay? They're already coast to coast. We know that. Unlike the SEC, they're on 3 networks. They're like the NFL has done it, the NBA is doing it, the Big Ten has done it. They're on CBS, Fox, and NBC. What if they just went out and said, you know, there are a whole lot of AAU schools out there. Let's say the ACC collapses, all right? Georgia Tech, Miami, Duke, North Carolina, Virginia, Pitt, those are all AAU schools. Big 12 has 5 more AAU schools. Let's say the Big 10 just says, we're going after everybody. That's Utah, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Kansas. Then they add 2 more AAU schools to fill out a southern wing where Sankey wouldn't want them coming.
There you go.
They add Tulane and USF. Vince Ferrara's alma mater is an AAU school. Didn't know that. And then you throw in Notre Dame, the one non-AAU school. So you could do that league right there. You look like the NFL. You cover coast to coast. You've got some of the best names in all of sports. And the trick is, if you're still in some sort of playoff structure with the SEC, you've got 32 votes, whereas the SEC does not, which means if you want to create a 4 buys for all Big Ten teams at the start of your playoff, well, you got the votes to do it. Not to mention, if you played a 10-game conference schedule among 32 teams, which wouldn't be crazy, that's 160 games of inventory. To put that in perspective, this year the SEC will have 64. They'd have 100 more games to sell to the networks. More money, more power, and they probably cut off the SEC as just a regional league tied to one network. Now, that is a doomsday scenario. That is the nuclear first strike option. I don't think that would ever happen. But if you're the Big Ten, would you be looking at it and considering it if you could own the world?
You might be the person to ask this question, so I want to know right now. You just put Notre Dame on this list in this doomsday scenario. Would it be 4 networks? Because do you acquire NBC and Notre Dame by doing this as well?
Well, they've already got NBC as part of their league.
I
But
guess,
yeah, I guess that
depending on how they would divide that up into
Yeah.
like the secondary, the streamings, and all the other things that NBC's tied in together.
Well, you'd have to work through all these. I mean,
Right,
here's the
that's
deal.
why I
it would
questioned
never
some of
come
that.
together so smoothly. But I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking,
I don't know if Greg Sankey would ever allow that to get to that scenario, but to answer your question, if that did come to fruition, it would be crippling. And the SEC would be, I think you would hear that heart monitor distant.
God, I just hope I retire before that.
yeah. If that happened, do you think the Big Ten should even look at that? Should they be looking big? Forget that. Should they be looking at, we're closer to being a national league than the SEC. Let's get there before they can.
Why
What
not?
was the Nathan Bedford for it? Get there firstest with the mostest?
Why
Should
not?
they be doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, why not?
Which is probably why Greg Sankey called the commissioner of the Big Ten to have discussion to try to
Fend
have a mea
off.
culpa, yeah. Well, I don't know about fend off, but at least, hey, let's get along, guys.
It certainly worked with the Pac-12 and their alliance with the Big Ten. But that was a previous commissioner. Josh, your thoughts?
Well, we need to talk to Jimmy about the definition of retirement, but that'll be afterward. I'm entertained by the idea, by the way. I'll buy the Heartland merch. I would be in on that. The SEC would still have so much talent in terms of players going to the big schools, the schools we're talking about right now in the conference. I can't imagine the SEC would say, they're going to be there and we'll just stay where we are. I would think that would come back to the Clemson Florida State conversation if they
We'll get to
see
that, yeah.
if they see the Big Ten making these moves, the SEC has to make its moves as well. So which team is thinking let's get ahead of the other is a big part of this.
Anybody thinking that, well, no team would choose the Big Ten over the ACC, remember right now, as it stands, the Big Ten Big Ten schools make about $10 million more, as far as we know, than SEC schools, which may not seem big to you, but over the course of a decade, that's $100 million more to Minnesota than to Tennessee, as far as what the numbers we've seen.
And, maybe it wouldn't be crippling as I started the segment, but all those more games that you could sell inventory, what keeps some of those SEC schools from going, I don't know if I like your attitude, SEC, and then they go where the grass is greener?
Yeah, would a Kentucky, for example, say I've got a better chance of winning in the division with Minnesota and Kansas State than I do in a league with this bunch. Possible.
I'm intrigued by the possibilities. I'll give you kudos on your division names. I like them way better than legends and leaders already. But
Steel Belt, I was particularly proud of. Yes.
I think there's some potential there. I don't know. I still look at it and see like 7, 8 legitimately good football programs. So I don't know how much it helps you in terms of like winning championships, dominating the playoff. It gives you a lot more inventory to sell, a lot more money. That's going to help. But if it's an arms race to collect contenders, would you not be better off just going and getting Miami and Notre Dame or something like that? I mean, just getting the good ones out of the schools you mentioned, and leaving the other ones off to the side.
Okay, well, let's say that. Let's say they wanted to go to 24.
Yeah.
Instead of 32. Let's say you add, what are they at, 18? You add 6 more schools. If you're the Big Ten commissioner, are you sitting there saying, no, we're good, or are you plotting?
I'm plotting. I want this thing, selfishly, I want this thing to get to a standoff eventually. Whatever that takes to get them in a Cold War stance that say, if you make the next move, we're doing this.
Yeah.
But until then, we're good. I want it to get to that point. I hope they're there now, but I don't think they are.
We are blockading Cuba. Do not go across this line.
Yeah.
Tony Petitti, Big Ten commissioner, needs to be playing chess, not checkers. Always thinking.
I agree. I would have the plan. You always hear ADs that say, well, I've got a list of coaches in case something happens. If it were me, I would be looking at this saying, all right, look, what the SEC surprised us with Oklahoma, Texas. Could they surprise us with something else? Or do we want to be the ones who make the surprise? Anyway, let's say that happened. Let's say that crazy plan happened. What would the SEC do? You're saying they'd be great. They'd be fine. Would they? Let's take a look. Come on back.